says, "Oh, don't worry, it's not unsafe." Just stay back. Everyone knows, right? Well, no, not everyone knows, and yes, it was unsafe. And there's a reason those safeties are there. There's a reason there's covers on these boxes. There's a reason that things are done a certain way. And again, I have a concern that I've already heard testimony that we are gathering information about people, about individuals, we're not developing profiles and looking for the lights to go off as certain things happen, but we're actually at times connecting those lights, whether they've gone off or not, to an individual. Now answer this question for me. What happens when a behavior is documented and attached to an individual that's a lie?
Is that your question?
Yes.
If once it's found out to be a lie, typically, because I don't work in the my
if the only person who knows the truth has no access to the lie, they don't know it exists. So what happens when and he's not in the room, he or she doesn't exist in the state today, and maybe not even in the nation, but what happens when the crooked cop who's out to get somebody says, "I'm not hurt you, I'm going to start feeding information into my database, and you're going to get profiled"?
The same thing happens in that situation whenever there's a crooked cop who wants to do anything, whether it's feed information in the database, or swear out a phony search warrant, or testify falsely in a trial against someone, which luckily, in my experience, when we look at these things, it doesn't happen as often as people fear, but it does happen. I recognize that. And so is there some way to prevent crooked cops or crooked citizens who just want to call in a phony report? Or dummy up a document, send it in anonymously. Those things happen, I don't say all the time, because luckily it's not a frequent occurrence, but it does happen. And when law enforcement has reason to believe this is not a reliable piece of information, I can't speak for my exactly, but it's generally expunged from the system. It doesn't stay there. And if your question is then, well, how are you to know if somebody turned in something phony about me, or you, or some particular person, if you can't query the database, whether it's the MIAC or some other database, and get the information? It's a good question, but it's one of those things that the federal government has tried to work it out by having a FOIA Act, and generally the state FOIA Acts, as I know about them, pretty much model the federal FOIA Act, and there are exemptions from time to time. One of the exemptions is if there's an investigative activity going, whether it's a grand jury investigation or an investigation, or intend to reveal or disclose an informant or a police source of information, something like that. There are exclusions for that. If that exclusion tends to shield somebody who provided false information, that is highly unfortunate. All I can tell you in my 30 years, I can't think of a case where that has happened. It's not to say it doesn't happen, but I'm not aware of them, and I'm aware of a lot of dirt as well, a lot of good.
Well, maybe you need to get into my industry, because I can cite you several instances of false information that's spread about me. Well, unfortunately, it's none that has found any pavement and any traction, but I'm going to tell you, that's the business I live in. And I'm going to tell you, and that's where you scared the pants off of me, because your response is coming back the same. That when the government doesn't know the answer, they lean towards, well, this is what the government wants to do. Instead of, when the government doesn't know the answer, we're going to err to the caution of the citizen. Anytime that a government is allowed to amass information of unsubstantiated data, of uncriminal behavior about its citizenry, and then deny the citizen access to that information, to me, is a violation of their civil liberties, and truly violates what our founding fathers taught us to be drastically and lifelong concerned about not just our government, any government. And that is what scares me. And that's what scares people who are concerned about what that phone book they haven't read, but a government they're starting to learn not to trust.
But if law enforcement...
And I'm in the business of trying to get people to trust government. My job is to make people trust government.
And I think that's good. And obviously that's my interest as well. But if law enforcement regularly collected unsubstantiated criminal threat information, it would be a different world. But they don't regularly collect unsubstantiated.
If you're collecting criminal data of a person who's never been convicted of a crime, that is unsubstantiated criminal data.
Well, that's where
in this nation, you are innocent until you've been proven guilty.
With all respect, that's not accurate. Because
oh my God.
It's a trial presumption. And I'm talking like a lawyer, but that's how the law is.
That's right.
It's a trial presumption.
Oh my God.
Presumption is a trial presumption. It doesn't mean that people who aren't convicted of crimes haven't committed crimes, all the time, and I can
And
start.
that's not what I said. What I'm
Well,
saying.
no, you're saying that people who haven't been convicted haven't committed crimes. That's not accurate. People who haven't been convicted sometimes do commit crimes. They commit crimes before they're convicted. Some they commit crimes where they don't get prosecuted because they escape conviction, or there's not sufficient evidence to gather them, or there's multiple reasons the cases get washed out. For I was 5 years as a state prosecutor, all the time police would bring in cases and we had to say we can't issue on that.
This is good. I need this because this guy keeps saying stuff.
That's a legal presumption. I'm okay with that. And he should be regarded as innocent. But the act that he committed did not happen. It did happen if there's sufficient evidence.
According to someone else's observation.
If there's sufficient
And interpretation.
If it's substantiated, yes. If it's substantiated, that's the point we're making.
You're
I think
right.
we agree that as long as it's substantiated.
You're right. Somewhere between the Fifth Amendment and the 10th, there's one that says that I have a right to a trial by jury.
I'm with you.
To try my peers, and that's not happening in this case. And that is my concern, and I think that's the general concern of our citizenry.
Well,
that government is seeking information about them, that they don't have to be credible and responsible back to the citizen for.
This is not a new thing.
Well, I know it's,
That's right.
this concern of citizens is not a new thing. It's been going on.
I agree.
But
to the extent you like
I'm not trying to argue with you as much
as
as this issue.
But
I know we need to move on, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just a point of information, we have 7 more people to testify, and every single one of them will have an opportunity to speak, and we have a little over an hour left. The gentleman from Dent, I believe, had a question.
Yes, I'll try to make it as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As an attorney talking to an attorney, let's not talk like attorneys. So, the whole purpose of the Fusion Center, would you say that it's to protect government? Is that?
This protects citizens.
To protect citizens. Okay, that's what I think a Fusion Center should, because there's a big difference between protecting government and protecting citizens. The only report that this committee, under my understanding, that has ever viewed from the Fusion Center in the state of Missouri is the modern day militia reports. That's the only one. If another member has seen one, I'd like to see it. If you look at this report, you've read the Patriot Act, you're a smart person or you wouldn't have read it. If you look at that report, the only report that we've been able to see, and it was by accident, I guess, I do agree with what you said, it's politically motivated, because it mentions candidates from 3 different parties. So, Ron Paul, Republican, Constitutional Party, Chuck Baldwin, Bob Barr was a Libertarian. So those are 3 parties. So I agree that it's politically motivated. But if you
I didn't say that report is politically motivated. I'm just clarifying. Go ahead.
You said what brought this to the attention of people was it was politically motivated. And that's why people was concerned. And if you look at this report, to me, on the basis, it looks like that it's government trying to make sure that the people don't rebel against what's going on with government. If you look with Representative Thunderberg, Representative from St. Charles County addressed earlier when he was inquiring you, he started talking about the Founding Fathers, which that's very important to me. If you look at the Declaration of Independence, which is very important, that's how our country was founded, and on its right, it said that we had unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This report directly says that, if you're pro-life, we're gonna watch you. Well, that's one of the 3. It does